Hi, everyone. How are we doing? I know it's 4 p.m., so I'm very grateful that you're still here, and I'm really excited to show you all of the things that I've been working on and all the things that you can take away to little ones in your life and big ones in your life as well. So the name of my presentation is a catchphrase that we use in our kids show, which is solutions are everywhere. And so we're going to talk a little bit about sparking climate action with kids media. And so the first thing that I want you to do is to take 10 seconds, and I want you to think about a childhood hero of yours. Who was someone that you really looked up to when you were a kid? It could have been a celebrity, it could have been somebody who played sports, or it could have been a parent, or just somebody in your life. And so I want you to think about it, and then I'm going to give you 15 seconds to turn to someone around you and tell them who it is. And you don't have to have a conversation with them, just tell them who it is. I'm going to give you about 15 seconds to do that. Go. All right, you have 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. Very good. So for me, my hero growing up was Steve Irwin. That was somebody that I really, really looked up to. And another person that I really looked up to was Bill Nye the Science Guy. These were two people that made learning so much fun and engaged me in all of the ways that they were passionate. And so because I saw those role models in my life, I was able to emulate that as an adult. So a little bit about me. I am a TV personality. I am a children's book author. I am a climate activist. I'm the one on the left in the red right there. And I'm a teacher, and I'm a public media employee. And so this picture that you see right here, I have a tattoo on my ankle, which you can see, the people in the front, of the ppm that I was born at, the amount of carbon dioxide that was in the atmosphere on the day that I was born. I was born at 362.25, and a healthy level is under 350. So I was born at 362. Now here is one of my students that I teach every day during the year. He was born at 404.41, and the number only rises. And so this is an exercise that I do with my students to figure out the timeline of climate change, what is happening that's putting too much carbon dioxide into our atmosphere, and what we can do to get that carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere and back into the ground where it belongs. So I just want to set the stage because I am an adult that cares deeply about the well-being of children. And so here's some background that's really fantastic from a report that the Aspen Institute did. Number one, children are being actively impacted by climate change today. We talk a lot about future generations. We talk about, our grandchildren or our children's grandchildren. No, it's happening right now to children every day. I live in Los Angeles. We just had a major climate disaster 4 months ago, and I spent the entire last semester helping kids cope with losing their houses, helping kids cope with understanding what a climate disaster is, and helping kids cope with PTSD who weren't brushing their hair before they came to school. And so that's number one. But number two is only half of surveyed parents talk to their kids about climate change, and most school districts don't talk about it at all. And so there's a gap here. There's a gap of experiencing climate change and experiencing climate disasters and climate injustices, but not talking about it. And that doesn't make any sense. But it also says that 3 out of 4 surveyed members of Gen Z, which is the generation right below me, say that they have expressed negative mental health impacts from consuming media about climate change. Think about what you think of when you think of climate media. We think of An Inconvenient Truth. We think of Before the Flood. We think of documentaries that are telling us what's going on, which are so necessary. Would you show that to a 4-year-old? No. Right, exactly. And so my job is to take the climate science that I have learned and that we all have collected together and be able to synthesize that to a level where you could say, explain it to me like I'm 5, which is really helpful for me because I work with 5-year-olds. But it's also really helpful for adults that don't have a lot of time or adults that aren't engaged in it at all. This makes climate communication accessible because most adults read at a 6th grade reading level. And most adults have not even heard of what an IPCC report is. And so by explaining it to children, I'm also explaining it to the adults that love them. Awesome. So I'm just going to talk about a couple of big feelings that climate brings up. Because again, this isn't happening in a vacuum. This is happening to people that we love, to children that we teach, and to generations that are going to come for a long time. And that can bring up some big feelings, especially if you're 5 and you're just learning how to share your toys, let alone the biggest problem that humanity has ever faced. So the first one is ecophobia. I wrote my undergraduate thesis on this, about how if we are not careful with the way that we talk to children, they will say, I'm all set. Actually, I don't want to think about that because you just presented a giant monster to me with no way to beat it. And so I'm going to turn around and watch Paw Patrol because I don't want to talk. I don't want to think about this. The other one is solastalgia. And this is a feeling that a lot of adults have right now as we see the shifting baselines, where it's nostalgia for a place that no longer exists. This was the first climate emotion I ever had. I'm from New Jersey, where a lot of development occurs. So when I was a child, there was a lot of forest around my house. And as I grew up, all of that forest was raised to make big budget housing developments. And so that was really difficult for me. And that's actually what got me into the environmental movement in general. And then finally, climate anxiety. Can you raise your hand if you've ever felt climate anxiety? Yeah, me too. And a lot of my students have as well. And so when I go to accomplish the task of communicating climate change to children, there are a couple of questions that I ask myself. First, I ask, what information needs to be communicated? Because often it's not the whole story. You don't have to say every single thing in one lesson. You can break it down. The next one is, what emotional impacts will it have? Again, this isn't happening in a vacuum. Kids care about the world. They care about their families. They care about their friends. This is happening to us in real time. And finally, how can we get people involved afterwards? Because again, if we just tell them, hey man, everything's screwed up, but have a good day at school, you know, maybe somebody else will figure it out. That's not a way to get kids to care about anything. So we need to have something that engages kids afterwards, after learning about it. And so I'm a little bit frustrated about the way that we communicate climate change to children, because right now, we mostly talk about what's happening and why it matters. I can use a real life example. There's a massive heat dome over the East Coast right now, where most of my family lives. So we can say, there's a heat dome on the East Coast. Why it matters? You could die. You know, wet bulb temperature. If you get too hot and too humid, you could die. And then that's what we're telling people. But what we should be talking about is much more robust. What we really need to be talking about is why this is happening. And this sounds like it's really complicated, but it's not. Kids understand the issue of fairness, and kids understand the issue of injustice very well. If you ever give a kid more attention than another kid, you will know that kids care about fairness and they care about justice. And so it's really easy to tell kids that we are using fossil fuels to power our lives. We are not managing land well. And for hundreds of years, we've been exploiting land and bodies and workers and food and animals, and it's not fair. Then we talk about what's happening. But really, in my work, I don't focus that much on what's happening because that market is saturated. Kids are already seeing what's happening. They're experiencing it firsthand, and there's a lot of media out there about why climate change is super bad. That they have that covered. But what isn't being covered as much is what's been done about it. And this is where our childhood heroes comes in, because I work at a local PBS kids station, PBS SoCal in Southern California, and the first thing that we're taught when we work in the education department is that modeling behavior is the most powerful way to get a kid to learn. And so why aren't we talking about the amazing role models that are doing something about it? So not only can we talk about what's being done about it, also how you can get involved. And that's kind of where my pedagogy differs from a lot of environmental communication, is because I don't talk about, like, make a birdhouse out of a milk carton. That's how you can save the planet. I'm like, no, get involved with your local community. Go to the library. Google the environmental organizations in your neighborhood, because we need community in this moment. And so I've come up with a couple of lists of do's and don'ts when you want to talk to kids about climate change. The first one, highlight solutions. Solutions are everywhere. The next one is include a call to action. Make sure that the kids can leave whatever conversation they're having with you saying, oh, I know what I'm going to do next. I'm going to learn about the local garden, or I'm going to learn about compost, or I'm going to play I Spy with sources of energy, or I'm going to try to spot a solar panel, and I'm going to try to spot a wind turbine, and I'm going to try to spot an oil rig, which is really easy to do in LA. The third one is focus on togetherness. The most depressed and the most anxious I have been when I talk about climate change, or when I think about climate change, is when I feel alone. When I feel like I'm the only person that cares about this and that the powers that be are never going to change. But then when I go to a meeting at the Sunrise Movement, or I go to a climate strike, I go, oh, yes, I'm not alone. There are other people that are working on this. And that is the message that's really important to communicate to kids. And finally, make it intersectional. Climate change did not happen in a vacuum. Climate change happened as a result of colonialism and slavery and fossil fuel extraction and capitalism. These are things we need to talk to kids about. We cannot hide this from them. Then here are some don'ts. Number one, lead with guilt. Kids just got here. They did not create the systems in which we are all being hurt by. They're 6. You know, they did not create the plastics industry. And so if you're like, Johnny, why did you have a plastic water bottle? No, they're just gonna be like, that adult sucks, and I'm gonna keep drinking plastic water bottles. Don't do that. They just got here. Again, don't promote only individual action. I recycled batteries religiously as a child. I turned all of the computers in my middle school to Blackle instead of Google so that it would take up less energy. The fossil fuel industry still accelerated climate change. And so individual action is a great on-ramp to climate, but we need to be focusing on togetherness. Trash humanity at large. This is not like, oh, humans, they're the worst. That absolutely goes against thousands and thousands of years of indigenous wisdom and stewardship. Humans have made a lot of mistakes, and there are a lot of humans working to fix it. So we can't trash humanity at large. And then finally, prophesize the future. We have climate models, but if we say, all right, Jimmy, it's all screwed, is Jimmy gonna wanna help? No. And so we don't know what's gonna happen. We have a line in a song in an episode that's coming out that says, it's not written in stone, it's written in sand. And we can rewrite it whenever we want. So based on the actions that we can take, we can rewrite our entire future. And so that brings me to the show that I write and star in, which is called Suzie Hicks, the Climate Chick and Sprout, where a very excitable sunflower puppet and I go and meet local climate role models all over the world. And so our main pedagogy with the show is local climate issues meet local climate solutions. We aren't solving climate change in one episode. We are talking about fossil fuels and anger. We're talking about biodiversity loss and grief. And we're talking about climate disasters and fear, because these are things that kids are feeling. And we're focusing on intersectional community climate role models who are taking the big problems that we see and finding big solutions. And finally, we're mixing the science and the emotion of it, because again, it's not happening in a vacuum. And so we created a proof of concept for this in 2021. We were accepted into 13 different festivals, and we won 2 of them. And through the notoriety that we gained through that, we raised over $50,000 to produce the first episode, which is now fully on YouTube. You can go see it. And we were recently featured on All Things Considered, the NPR show, highlighting the fact that we are creating a YouTube show for kids about climate, which hasn't been done before. So, yay! Yay! I would highly recommend you check it out. It was a labor of love, and I feel great about it. But what I want to leave you with is that kids' media is powerful. Here are a couple of situations in which kids' media has absolutely revolutionized the world. Sesame Street sold kids the alphabet when TV was new. Fred Rogers saved public media $10 million by testifying in Congress. And I want to leave you with this. Media can help us see worlds outside of our own. And kids media has the opportunity to be a healthy intervention point to increase climate literacy and equip young people with the tools to tackle the climate crisis together. Here's some recommendations. Definitely check these out, and also watch my show as well. And there are educational resources. We have classroom curriculum that you can get on our website for free, but I also would recommend Subject to Climate and This is Planet Ed. And from the proof of concept, we have a song that says, "Nothing's too heavy if we lift together." When I look around, I feel so much better. Now, with the last 40 seconds I have, I'm gonna teach you a little dance. So everybody get your hands out, get them out, and we're gonna go hydro, geo, wind, and sun. Energy is all around for everyone. Okay, do you got that? Do you need me to teach it to you again, or you got it? Do it again? Okay. Hydro, geo, wind, and sun. Energy is all around for everyone. Now that's the bridge of our song, which is Bright Future, and it goes, ready? Get your hands. Hydro, geo, wind, and sun. Energy is all around for everyone. Good job. Give yourselves a round of applause. Awesome. So the climate crisis is a huge problem, but we are born problem solvers. And in the great process of problem solving, there is room for fun and there is room for joy. And everyone has something to offer, and everyone has something to learn. Thank you, guys. Thanks so much. Keep in touch. Watch our show.